My name is Karma Sichoe and I'm 41, and I grew up in Dharamsala. But where I was born, it's quite complicated. Officially, yes, I'm born in Dharamsala, but later I found out that actually I was not born here. I found it out in 1997 that I was born in Jomsum, near Mustang, yeah, in Nepal. So yeah.
Are your parents from Tibet?
I guess so. I still don't know. My mother is from Baryang. It's close to Mount Kailash area and Mount Sarovar. But from the father side, I don't know anything. I don't have any clue because I grew up as an orphan. Yeah, so yeah.
Were you adopted here in Dharamsala?
Yeah, I was since I was probably age of 3. I was in TCV, upper TCV, and then since I was age 3, I was there.
Okay, so you grew up with the Tibetan Children's Village education. What did you think of that?
Yeah, when I look back, most of the time I like it, but sometimes I feel like it could be. I wish it could be better. Because it's the education system is not really holistic. Because since I was class 1, I always like to sketch. I always like to paint. It's kind of like safe zone for me. It's like safe zone as well as it's a place where I can escape from the reality. But then on the other side, the elders, they always discourage you for painting. They never believe it's kind of a skill that is useful for you. And they always discourage you about painting and all of these things. So when I look back, I wish it could be much more holistic.
Do you feel like it was effective in teaching you Tibetan culture and language?
Yeah, at that point, at the moment, the feeling of being Tibetan, it's all because of the school, because I never seen Tibet, I never grew up there. All I know about Tibet is through elders, their educations, their and of course from our colleague who recently come from Tibet, friends, who just left their parents when they are young, So most of my homemates are we call it newcomers from Tibet. So you know about your Tibet from your friends, from teacher, from elders in school. So being a Tibetan, feeling proud of being Tibetan, I grew that. I feel like I got this feeling right from the very beginning where I grew up. Yeah.
How did you find a creative outlet when you were in school?
Yeah, that's why I feel like I always I wish the school would be much more encouraging in terms of paintings, and creativity part, but regardless of the discouragement about painting and sketching, I still continue doing, Yeah.
So you did it on your own?
Yeah, I did it my own. Yeah.
And did you go to any art school?
Yeah. So after that, I never felt like since I was class 1, memorizing and repeating what teacher says, it's not really me. It's boring. I need a logic. I need answer for the questions. I don't like to memorize. So since then, I thought it's not for me, and I always trying to find a way I can get out of that circle. For me, it's like a vicious circle. So as soon as I got the opportunity to study in art school. I left school. I dropped out of school when on age of 17. Yeah, and because I got very good opportunity to learn under the one of the best master, and you can see a lot of his work in His Holiness private chamber, and as well as in temple. And his name is Rinzai Bencho, but unfortunately he died very young because of the suffering he been through in Tibet during the Cultural Revolution, all of these things, So I didn't get a much chance to learn under him, only for few months, like 6 months. And then after that, his son carried on as a teacher, yeah. So I learned under his teacher for most of the time. Yeah.
I know a lot of Tibetan culture and religion has to do with art. Do you feel like you contribute to that?
Yeah, I believe since the Buddhism came to Tibet, much of the culture evolved in a spiritual perspective, developed in that way. In the same sense, the painting and creative art, most are evolved and developed through the medium of spiritual, So it's not the case of depicting daily life and political means, It's always developed in a spiritual way, yeah.
What type of art do you do?
I do, yeah. Since I learned since I was in art school, I was learning a traditional art, which is called thangka. But I feel bored, after doing a lot of, thing, for a long time, So, and I feel like, being a little bit of suffocated and a little bit of like, constrained, feel like, blocked. Then I slowly start moving towards the contemporary. So now I'm practicing lots of different mediums, because for a long time, I want to bring out myself and our community through my paintings, but I'm not able to do through the medium of thangka, because thangka has been developed in a very spiritual perspective. There's little room for your own perspective to express on, and so that is the reason, I feel like suffocating, because I'm not able to express my point of view, and so since 8 years I was practicing contemporary work. Yeah. Since I'm childhood, I'm really angry about everything around, not remembering my own mother's face, and where I'm from, and I have lots of anger inside, and then you learn all this, background about who you are, being refugee, and and then you learn all this, China occupation of Tibet, all of these things, and then you need somebody where you can put all your angers, So ultimately, the China and the political situation become a part where I can put all the angers, and the more depressing is, I cannot express all of these angers and dissatisfaction and all of craving of and wishing. I cannot express in thangka, so that's how I move towards the contemporary work, So I'm able, slowly I'm able to release all this blockage, energy blockage, on the canvas, So it's a medium where I can have a dialogue between me and myself,
What changes would you like to see in the schools, the Tibetan schools here?
Yeah, as I say, holistic means, we, of course, memorizing and, repeating what you say, what the teacher says, but, that is not all, yeah. We have to be much more open to different approach, because, individual have a different ways of understanding things, different approach for the solutions, yeah. And I think, the art and the culture and the creativities and it's very important, and especially, we have to encourage, the personal growth, and most of the Asian education system, they don't encourage the personal growth, especially back in our time, everybody has to be like sheep, and I don't want to be sheep, and I don't want to say what teacher says, yeah.
So you talk about looking at problems in different ways and being creative, and we've seen a lot of diversity in opinions with Tibetans and Westerners like myself. We tend to divide the problem causing, like with the Tibetan cause, as pro-independence and pro-autonomy, and that the Tibetans are split up in that way. Do you believe it's that simple?
Yeah, I'm very decisive. Since I was child, I don't have a choice. I have to decide myself. When I was class 4, I decide, yeah, nobody has right to guide me, who the hell they are, I'm the boss of myself, and since then, one or another, there's always a problem. Wherever I put my foot, there's always a problem, because, I do what I feel like doing, and I don't need to listen, so. So that makes me very decisive. I always decide for myself. And the same for the Tibetan cause. It's my personal choice. I have a right to decide what I want. I don't need to follow what others says. First I have to listen myself. What I really want, and through my judgment. After 60 years of force us to live together with China, we are not able to live together. They always betray us, one after another, and how we can live together with them if you look for the autonomy, So in that sense, I don't want to live with them. I want a clear separation between China and Tibet. Even though, if it's a one nation, the different people choose to stay a separate life, they have a right to live a separate life, even within the family, husband and wife, doesn't go along, they have a right to live a separate life. So that's the same case, if China claimed Tibet as a part of China for centuries, but it's a part of Tibet, it's a part of China for centuries. Okay, that's right, but still we have a right to separate, we don't need to trace, all these, histories that, who is part of part, that's nonsense, And so for me, like my life experience taught me to the best solution for the Tibet case is a separate, So in our community, there are lots of, our politics is driven by faith. It's not driven by the day-to-day realities. That's why, it's always, the Tibetan politics, it's quite strange. Sometimes I don't even understand why it needs to be driven by faith. So that's because of that reason. If you are independent seeker, you are against His Holiness. That's completely rubbish. You are completely, that politics is politics. It's for your family, and it's for yourself and your family, and your community. And the religion is something very personal. It's nothing to do with your family. It's nothing to do with your kids. It's nothing to do with your wife or husband. It's your personal thing. So that's why you have to have a clear distinguish between politics and the religion. So in the politics, I'm completely, independent. I don't need to listen for his holiness. Yeah. On the spiritual aspect, of course, he's my root guru. I will follow, his spiritual advice. Yeah.
What was the reaction of Tibetan activists like yourself when they chose to name autonomy the middle way approach?
Yeah, because as I say, many of young people, they completely dedicated towards the solution of Tibet case. So they believe in autonomy. It's their right. It's a right to believe and right to practice. But it doesn't give any right to make a trouble out of that. You don't need to fight within among ourselves. You have to respect the different opinion. And we have to celebrate that difference.
So His Holiness the 14th Dalai Lama recently announced that he wants to separate from the political life. What was your reaction from the community, or again activists like yourself?
I was really happy that finally, he is doing, the right thing, in terms of political stance, because when you look back in the history of Tibet, most of the political problems are driven by sectarian problems, and because of that, China is able to occupy us because our political power is so poor, because almost everything day to day, it's basically dominated by sectarian issue or religious things, So whole politics is something to do with the religious, when you look back in the histories, So I feel like it's a right step for the future generation, and for the cause and the issue of Tibet. It's a right thing to do. Yeah.
So are you a Buddhist?
Yeah, that's complicated, Yes, I usually don't I don't have a pride, or I don't have a confidence to say that I'm Buddhist, because I'm not able to forgive what happened for me and for our community, and with a little, if you're not able to forgive, how you can practice Buddhist, you cannot practice any religion, if you are not able to forgive.
Because a lot of people are uncertain whether this issue can be solved with nonviolence. What do you?
Yeah, with this I'm very clear that the best solution and the best method for the Tibetan struggle is non-violence. You might be able to kill lots of Chinese. You might be able to disturb the peace. You might be able to do a lot of things, harm against China. But ultimately, this is not the solution. By harming others, it will harm back. When you put the ball on the wall, it will hit you back. So violence is never an issue and never a method to solve the issue. It's always, I think, it should be a non-violence, because through the non-violence you have a space and you have a room to flashback yourself, even the enemy. When you don't practice violence, they will have a room to think and flash back. If you practice violence, it only creates anger. It only creates anger because of the anger. It doesn't leave you any space to think and flash back. Yeah.
And what are some political movements you've been a part of? What movements?
Yeah, I'm a strong believer and practitioner of independence, and I've been part of many movements, and yeah, for a long time, almost while I was in doing painting, almost best part of my career life, I spent my energy and my resource towards the activism, and I took part in many campaigns, organizing, march, relays, public talks, all of these things, and then after 2008, I feel like I was not in a good situation. I was quite went through a depression because of when I look back. I sincerely did what I could and able to do, but I feel like my energy and my resource and skill has been misused by people. Because I'm not a leader. I'm good in setting up things for you. I'm good in playing on behind the stage. I don't like to come in the front of the people and come in a car and just represent in front of the people and talk a big mouth and go back in the car and sit in your hole and watch television. I can't do this. So, but in the same way, I cannot stay quiet. So for almost 20 years, I was in the front row for activism for long period, and then 2008, I feel like there are lots of rubbish going on, and to be a real professional, full-time working on activism, ground activism, you need to know how to play the games. You need to know how to play the games. You need to know how to play politics. In a sense. And it doesn't work with me. Politics is not me. Politics is something about your own personal growth and money and power and fame, all of these things, all this, and then I always hate politicians, and I hate a politician, and I hate politics which is shaped by politicians, and I need to change. That's why I was working for 20 years, and then to be a real activist, you need to know you don't have a choice. You have to play a politics. Otherwise, you are always in the losing side. So I'm not ready for that. So then I step back, and that's how I really try to work harder on contemporary work, because this is the space I feel like very comfortable to use it, what I feel, yeah.
Could you give an example of an activity when you were involved with politics that involved a lot of your energy?
In 1998, I did a hunger strike, which was organized by Tibetan Youth Congress, and at that time, I'm full of energy and full of yeah, that's it. I need to find a solution. Whether it's cost my life, I have to do. So at that time, I take a hunger strike unto death. So I end up staying 47 days. After that, they forcefully took us to the hospital and stay for 38 hours, something more than 38 hours in emergency ward. Yeah. So that is the one thing, and another thing is, I start helping to build Dharamsala chapter. Now it grow up to the to India chapter. Before it's just a small Dharamsala chapter, SFT, yeah, Student for Free Tibet. So I help me and my friend, gather together, organize a march from here to Delhi, and organize cycle relay, creating awareness among the Indian public, and talked in between. We have people who can talk and organize in between the schools and wherever we stops. So that was another almost 3 months. And then on the between we organized public talk with Tenzin Shintin you have made, yeah, public talk, public debate, yeah. And then later on we did another big thing is in the 2008 we did a march to Tibet. It's almost 6 months, 6 months on the road. So I was the single-handed, you can say like single-handed handling a scout for the 300 people day to day, a place for camping, water and everything. Yeah. So yeah, so these are the major things that I took part.
As you know, we talked to Lessing, Sarsing earlier, and he talked about how right now at this point in his age, or in his life, talking about the Tibetan cause is his big way, is helping as an individual. Is that how you feel about your art?
Yeah, yeah. I always feel like it's important to have a dialogue. It's. I never see the Tibet case is just a Tibetan case. Same to like anything to do with the suffering. It's not really an issue of individual thing. So I always believe Tibet case is a case of everybody, and it's a human issue. It's none other than the human issue. So since it's a human issue, we have to have a dialogue. We have to have some conversation about the problems. Yeah. So through the dialogue and through the communications, I feel like we can solve basically every problems. Yeah.
And do you still have Buddhist influences in your contemporary art?
Yeah, mostly it's my own personal feelings, my political stance, because political, I don't have a choice. I was brought up in a complex political issue. Without the choice, you grow up in that situation. My contemporary work has a lot to do with my human stories, Tibetan stories. So yeah, the reason I picked the contemporary work is, through this medium, I wish I can able to tell my story, my community story, my family stories. So with this, I can touch, any other issues, because like many of contemporary works, I start doing this thing for long time, using a right mediums, So I sometimes use a garbage, one time, I clean up. I try to clean up, the circumambulation place as much as possible, and out of that, trash and garbage, I make a collage, and wherever I go, I clean up the place, and make a stupa, bury or burn everything, because in India, either you take it down to the rubbish bin, or you burn it there. It's the same case, because and the worst thing is, if you take it to the rubbish bin, the authority will take it and dump it in a wasteland where they're allowed to rot, so they let it rot, and after rotting, they burn it, So I feel like, why not, if there's no access for the garbage bin, I clean a place and burn it there. So sometimes I take the things I need for my artwork, yeah, and the rest because this issue is very much it's part of me, because whenever you hear His Holiness, the reason we are proud people is because we're being Tibetan, and then you have to know why you are a refugee. You have nothing to be proud of, but still we are proud people. And then you figure out, because who we are culture background, and His Holiness says, all the time that the good things about Tibetans, and respecting the environment and respecting the way you live. It's part of Tibetan. And whenever I go to holy places, I feel disturbed. It is completely contradict, His Holiness advice and then the way of our living. Even the prayer flag, is made out of polyester. And then, almost everywhere, you go, the prayer flag is killing all the trees. It strangled the tree, and it doesn't allow the plant to grow. So it's always contradict, and then that's why we start practicing, and respecting the environment for long time. And then the fifth Dalai Lama actually implemented a law which protects the environment, endangered species. They have lots of rules, how you can fish, how you can hunt, how you can mine. Basically, there's lots of law which is, which prohibited mining, hunting, fishing, disturbing the environment since 5th Dalai Lama. So that is the one reason that we are proud of being a Tibetan. And now here in exile, back in Tibet, we are mindlessly using a lot of things that actually is not way of our life. It's about the few corporation which benefits, and in the end, we are basically doing exactly the opposite how we live for centuries. Yeah.
And you do art as a living right now?
Yes, yeah. Not much from the contemporary, all from my traditional work, and sometimes I go to the school and give workshop about thangka and art and paintings, so that's how I live.
Do you believe you'll ever go back to activism?
No, I think since I'm not able to play a politics, I'm not able to do that. I cannot play politics. I never done anything for my seat. Because of my activism, I didn't take a responsible of being father of my elder daughter until she was age 4, and because I earned money and I spend on activism, I don't take any penny of money from the activism, and that doesn't work, and I'm not able. When I do something, for the cause of something, I never take any money. So, at the same time, if I don't take money, how I can support the family? Yeah. So if I take money, it's against my moral, So it's very difficult situation for me. So that's why I cannot go back activism. So the art as a tool for my activism, art as my tool to express my opinion, my political opinion, and my feelings about myself and my family, my community. So I strongly believe that art is a very strong medium where it is able to give a spark for the people to flash back and think.
And how do you believe Westerners such as ourselves can help with the Tibetan cause?
Yeah, the first thing, we have to stop doing business with China, starting from yourself. Even though you pay $1 more, which is made in US, try to do that, because ultimately, if you are buying a things which is made in your own country, it's benefit for your own family. It creates a job inside your community. It's the job is not transferred to other people. It's actually the job and the money and everything is inside. You are supporting your own people. In the other sense, you are not supporting a regime which is which is against the humanity. So I say like China it's against the humanity. China regime is against the human community, because destroying their neighbor is also destroying their self. If they erase a Tibetan and Tibetan people from this planet, ultimately they will be the one who is suffering.
Okay, so we're getting to some of our final questions of the interview. But do you believe the Dalai Lama will ever return to Tibet?
I strongly believe yes, and I strongly believe I myself see a Tibet. I tell you the story. Many times I do paintings, which is directly related to my inner feelings. I was in a holiday, family holiday in Goa, and then I like to capture the sunset in watercolor, but I don't have a time. I have to do the shopping for the food, dinner. Usually I cook out myself for the family, wherever we go for the holiday. So I went to the sunset around 6. So I went to the market around 4:30. So then I got back in a junction where I have a choice to go back to the family or go on to paint, And then in the junction I decide, I go on. If I go and call my family, to capture the sunset, I'm not able to paint, So I went there. And from where I decide this to my place where I want to capture the sunset, it will be probably a half an hour walk through the beach. And then by the time I decide and start going, it's almost 5 and 5:30, And then I have only a few minutes, probably 20 minutes left, and then on the nearby, almost reaching just before the 15 minutes, I almost sat down next to the beach and start capturing and then I don't feel like painting there, because I don't want sand in my pigment, because I use pure pigment, and so then I decide if I'm able to go there and able to capture the sunset in this time period, I will be going back. I'm going back to Tibet. So this set, I went there, and then I have a nice cliff, and just below the cliff, you will see whole horizontal view of the oceans, and the sunset. So I get there, take out all my tools, and then start painting. And I did capture the sunset in 8 minutes in a small miniature painting. And then I was really happy. I have a nice smoke there. I have one cigarette there, and then I thank the place. I prostrated towards all the direction that that I'm going back. It gives me a confidence that I'm going back. So I always do like this.
So, adding on to the questions, what are your hopes for the future?
So in that belief, in that belief. I'm just 41, and I'm not doing as much as His Holiness does for the Tibet cause. And if I have that much of confidence that I'm going back to Tibet, of course, His Holiness is going back as well. Yeah.
So you're confident?
Yeah, I'm confident.
That's wonderful. We've done a lot of interviews with Tibetans, and some of them don't share the same confidence. They have little hope for Tibet, but yet you see so much passion and so much drive for them, for the cause. What do you think keeps inspiring them?
Yeah, one of them, because for me, I didn't, my lifestyle is not to inspire anybody, I have to be myself, I have to be honest, and if being myself and being, honest, if it's inspire other people, it's good. But for me, you need always an inspiration to be active, to be always involved with something. It came for me in a long time because I always practice painting and sketching and all the time. This is the medium where I always inspire myself, and I get confidence through that. And being a Tibetan, if you don't know really about yourself, sometimes you will be unmotivated. You feel bored. Then you not get inspired. So to get the inspiration yourself, personal growth, and to listen, to follow your dreams. All of these things are necessary in our community, and most of the Tibetan, they think coming in the ground and calling for free Tibet is the only way to contribute for the Tibetan cause. For me, it's not. Your lifestyle, you have to start from your lifestyle. First you have to be yourself. How you live, how you, and how you are able to live according to your moral ethics, and your dreams. You have to follow your dreams. If you want to become a doctor, if you want to become a painter, you have to do this. And on top, you have to be a good human being, and being a good human being and being following your footsteps towards your dream, you are contributing, towards your community, and you will make the community a much richer, much broad-minded peoples, and you have a space. You will create a space where people can have a dialogue. At the moment, we don't have a dialogue among ourselves. There is a clash between the independent seekers and the autonomy seekers, because we have a very low esteem ourselves. First, you have to have a confidence of yourself.
That's great. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Something you feel you missed out?
Basically, I said almost everything. Yeah. So if you have any other questions,
I think that was all. Thank you so much for your time. On behalf of the University of Arkansas, we greatly appreciated the time you spent with us. Thank you again.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah. You're welcome. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.